Good morning. Well, I'm going to make a cup of coffee here, but I wanted to talk to you about something that's really, really important. I'm putting in some almond coconut milk. This is 35 calories a cup. Let me pop it back in the fridge. And this morning, I am going to use some Intenso coffee. This is a regular cup, 7.77 ounces. So, and while it's brewing, I wanted to talk to you about something. This is like really, really important. Oh, let me just tell you, the intensity of Intenso, let's see, Intenso is 9. Okay. Oops, I just turned the flashlight on. How do I turn that off? Oh, okay. Is that off? Yeah. Okay, so, there are a lot of people today who are very, very worried, upset, anxious, nervous, feel unsure, insecure, stuff like that, think of words like that. And there are a lot of people that feel that way. And what I wanted to tell you, I wanted to explain to you a certain dynamic that happens in this day and age that makes things seem a lot worse than they've ever been. But I want to tell you, things are no worse than they have ever been in history, and I'll explain why. Okay, have you ever had a situation happen to you, or maybe you've seen it happen to another person, to a kid, let's say, where all the kids are on the playground and one kid calls another kid a name? And when it's just one kid, like one kid might say, "Oh, you're so-and-so," and the other kid says, "Oh, yeah? Well, you're blah, blah, blah," and it's back and forth, back and forth. Or, the kid being called a name might just walk away from the whole situation, okay? Let me just get this here. Let me eject my capsule. Isn't that pretty? I just love it. And I need to stir it in. Okay, let me stir this all in. I'm going to stir in the crema, which is the stuff on top. Okay. Alrighty. So, one kid against one kid, usually kids can handle that. But have you ever seen a situation where one kid is maybe calling another kid names, and then other kids gather and start getting involved and start harassing the first kid? So then you have a group against the one kid. And then it becomes so difficult for that one child to stand alone against that crowd, okay? Some kids can do it. Most kids, even if they seem to stand up to it, it really shakes them up, and they may go home crying, or wait until they get around the corner and then start crying where nobody sees them. But, it just kind of devastates them that everybody turned against them. Did you ever see the old Frankenstein movie where the villagers come with torches and pitchforks up to the castle of Dr. Frankenstein to protest, and to get rid of his monster that he made. Excuse me. Well, people in groups can be scary, right? Okay, this is what I want to tell you that's so important, that makes our day and age seem really different from all the years before this, but it's not different, okay? We have, because of the internet, I'm going to put some toasted marshmallow skinny syrup in here, and because of TV and radio, newspapers and magazines, but most especially because of the instant communication that the internet allows, where something can be happening on the other side of the world and you can see it, you can watch it happening live. So what we have, put this in this thing. What we have, let's say it's something that's upsetting. We've got a situation where the hordes have gathered with their torches and pitchforks, and we're watching that. This is figuratively, okay? The hordes are maybe all the different people making comments, and this person is interviewed by the news, and that person, or there's a protest, and the news shows you all these people that are there, and maybe they're protesting against something that you are for, and the news needs to make itself engaging. It needs to and wants to have an effect on you, okay? If it didn't, they would just flash across the screen, 2,000 people gathered in, wherever, and carried signs saying things like this. But no, they usually make it emotional. They try to express and get across what the people they're interviewing, are feeling, and the strength of their commitment to their cause and all this. And it can make it seem like, we're watching that. Okay, we could be on the other side of the world, but it can be upsetting to us. It may be something that we don't even know anything about, that these people are protesting about. Or maybe they're marching for something, but they're gathered together, they're a group. They're angry, or they're very, very devoted to their cause, and it can be upsetting, like, oh gosh, what's going on? Well, I'm trying to figure out how to put this. Do you get it, what I'm trying to say? That there's a whole world out there, okay? And the news may be concentrating on these 2,000 people or 10,000 people protesting somewhere, but there's a whole heck of a lot more people in this world than that. And not everybody is doing that. Not everybody is doing something upsetting. Back in the 1900s and 1800s and 1700s and on back, groups of people used to get together and, sort of march in a sense, or protest, there would be uprisings of people and all this sort of stuff. I mean, this kind of thing has been going on throughout history. But what's different about today is because Facebook and the internet and, all that kind of stuff makes it seem like there's a lot more going on, like that makes us say, what is happening in the world today? And very much so because of movies we've seen and books we've read. especially some of these, futuristic and dystopian kind of things, we can begin to feel like, oh no, is society falling apart? What's happening here? No. Things are no different than they've ever been in history. I say this because people are people, all right? There have always been people who have hated. There have always been people who are good-hearted and try to help. There have always been groups of people that gather together for a cause. Think about the Revolutionary War, the Boston Tea Party and all that stuff, Paul Revere and all those guys that gathered together for a cause. Now, if you were on the side of the British back then, it would have been disturbing to you to know about Paul Revere and all his buddies. There's always something going on. And what's very difficult for us these days is to not be made to feel like, oh no, what's happening in the world is society falling apart. Simply because we have so much more input of information. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. If you're watching the news, you might want to consider shutting it off and maybe watching it once a week. Some stations have the week in review, or, you can read stuff or listen to little videos online about the news of the week in review. Sometimes watching it every day can give you the feeling that the angry mob is coming with torches and pitchforks to your door. I myself am experiencing this. This is why I'm talking about it, because I know I'm not the only one. I was in the shower this morning and I was thinking, my gosh, well, this is what happened. I'll tell you about this. I don't want to make this too long, but yesterday I was listening to a World Health Organization news briefing on COVID-19. And there were, of course, because it's live on Facebook, so people are able to make comments throughout the whole thing. I mean, they type in comments. And I don't know, those news conferences seem to bring out every contrary and nutty person in the world, because it's, this whole thing is broadcast around the world. And there were, it's like a department store doesn't have a compliment department. They have complaint department, People are much more willing to complain than they are to say something good. Well, I always try to say, something like, watching from Valdosta, Georgia in the USA, thank you for your work, or thank you for broadcasting, or, just thank you, whatever. I try to say something positive and encouraging. There are people on there with every possible motive. I mean, there are people on there even trying to get people onto their porn websites and fake jobs and people asking for money and and then all the people who are saying stuff like coronavirus is caused by space alien insects and you name it. I'm getting over that bronchitis. Anyhow, so I decided I'm not going to do this again, but I put in a comment and I said, we're here, or most of us are here to get information, to hear what, the World Health Organization has to say. And if you don't have something to say that's positive or helpful, maybe you should keep your comments to yourself. What was I thinking, right? People jumped on me in those comments like, Oh my gosh. I don't know what to liken it to. It's like, a lion grabbing a gazelle and going, ah. um, oh my gosh. There were some comments that they were so vitriolic. It kind of shook me up a little bit. And I thought, oh my gosh, just, hang on a second. I had to think a second. I said to myself, okay, it's obvious there are people on here who just are confused, upset, angry, or just in the habit of wanting to feel heard, or they're just nuts. And, they get on these things and they make these comments and everything. And I said something that was a little bit, against the kind of comments they were making, so they jumped on me. It's not personal. Of course, when someone makes a comment on a thing like that, there's my name and then the nasty comment. Anyhow, it was a little bit disturbing to me that there are people almost like waiting, for something that they can say something negative about. And it made me think, well, is that the kind of person I want to be? That I'm just waiting like, the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood, just waiting in the woods to ambush her. I mean, that's what it felt like, like these people are just waiting to see who they can say something nasty about, or put down. That's not who I want to be. Now, have there always been people like this? Yes, there have. Perhaps it was on a smaller scale in past history because our cities and towns were smaller. But more so, I think, because we didn't have the communication around. Now, let's go back to the kids in the schoolyard, okay? Usually you have a leader and you have followers, all right? So the leader is out there saying, I don't know what kids say today. Oh, you're a mama's boy. And sometimes the followers decide, oh, hey, I'm going to get in on this. Or maybe the leader, calls other people. Come on, I'm right. Why don't you say so? And there's a bunch of kids saying, yeah, you're a mama's boy. You're a sissy. Um, you're so lame. I don't know what kids say today. Kids used to say things like that when I was little. To boys who they thought were maybe, seemed weaker or effeminate, or just somebody that they wanted to attack, because sometimes kids do that, kids in groups. So, okay, that's happening in the group, all right? Well, today, those groups can form virtually. What I mean is somebody could be online, say in Vermont, and they make a nasty comment about something on a post, let's say on Facebook. Or let's say, like I was watching that World Health Organization news briefing. So that's open to people all around the world, okay, to anybody. And somebody sees that in Great Britain and goes, yeah, and makes a similar comment. And somebody sees those two comments and they live in, I don't know, Hawaii, and someone else in Romania, and somebody in New Zealand. And anyway, you just name a place. Your angry mob, your group of little bullying kids, if you will, your, mob with torches and pitchforks, it seems like it's forming, but it's people who are disconnected all over the world. What connects them is this modern technology, of the internet, and they can form this bullying group, or it seems like it is, because that's what we're seeing, okay? Now, to the little kid in the schoolyard who's being bullied. Right then, that group of bullies seems like his whole world. But, later he can think, well, but I've got friends. They're not everybody. That wasn't everyone in my class. There are other people in there. He can be reasonable. We need to be reasonable and say, all right, there are 25 nasty comments about something that I believe in. Don't get all upset over it. You know what? First of all, it's likely that there are, people who aren't even connected with each other from all over the world. Okay? Second of all, it's just words. You know that saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me? Yeah, words can hurt, but you have control over how much damage they can do to you, okay? Don't let them damage you, okay? And then, third of all, you need to remind yourself, there may be one person who agrees with me here and 25 people who seem to vehemently disagree. This is not the whole world, okay? Keep things in a proper perspective, because it really, like I said, I'm talking to myself too. Sometimes our feelings can run away with us, and we can feel like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Here's something else you need to understand. This will be the last thing, okay? You have two parts of your brain that are very important in your everyday life. One part is the prefrontal lobe, and this is like the decision-making, executive, practical part of your brain. The part of your brain that when you see a fire, you say to yourself, oh, I need to be careful not to get too close. I'm wearing a flowy gauzy dress, and I don't want the breeze to blow into the fire. I'll catch on fire, so I'll be careful. Then you have the amygdala in the back of your brain that is the part that triggers emotions. It's kind of like almost a more primitive part. It's the part that's when you see the fire. Now, some people, they have no problem, but maybe something happened to you when you were young that got you really scared and nervous around fires. And you see, you're coming into the situation, you see this fire, maybe it's a campfire or something, and your first reaction is one of fear. It's kind of like if you're afraid of heights or afraid of snakes or, things like that. You don't start reasoning it out. Immediately you experience fear. That's your amygdala trying to protect you. Maybe a little misguided, but trying to protect you based on past experience or beliefs that you have. Okay? So what I'm telling you to be careful for is when you see stuff online or on the news, things like that, and particularly if you start feeling anxious and upset, kind of like I did this morning in the shower. I was thinking about stuff, and it was getting me a little bit worked up. And then I had to say to myself, wait a minute. Be reasonable here, I had to reason with myself using my prefrontal cortex, the executive in my brain, to pull myself together and say, wait, these feelings are going to stop now, because there is no angry horde at my door with torches and pitchforks, like in the Frankenstein movie. There are a few people that the news station is interviewing because, who wants to watch somebody saying, oh yes, we have a lovely, peaceful neighborhood, and nothing ever happens here. I mean, these days we probably would love to see that, but you know what I mean. We'd rather see somebody going, you know, yeah, we're going to get them and we're going to bust in their car windows and we're going to, and seeing people turning cars over and what have you. That's the kind of thing people watch that attracts them to the news. Some of it is because they're that kind of people. Some of it is kind of, I got to tell you, out of morbid curiosity. We watch it and we're going, whoa, I've never seen anything like that. Look at that, So I'm telling you, be really careful about the news. And if you, sorry, if you are watching something like I was, the World Health Organization news briefing, that has comments coming in from all over the world, turn the comments off. You can do that. So you're not seeing all of these negative things going by. And, not just negative, but wacky things. Like the one I saw yesterday about alien space insects are the cause of coronavirus. It's the cause of corona. It's not really a virus. Or use some sort of herb or something and that will cure it. And send money to this person, just call this number or hit this link, and it'll take you to the website. I mean, oh my gosh, every possible nut and scam artist gets on that sort of thing to have a broader reach in their business. Anyhow, I hope that this helps some of you. I'm going to an ENT today. That's ear, nose, and throat doctor. Anyway, I hope this helps because, you cannot take care of yourself and those who depend on you and just keep your life going if you're constantly concerned and feeling like the world is falling apart. The world is not falling apart. You are just being given a lot more input about the kind of thing that's always gone on throughout history, okay? And if they had had the internet, back in the French Revolution or something like that, I mean, you would have seen all sorts of awful stuff being posted back and forth. So I guess I'm also saying be careful about where you're going and what you're reading. On Facebook, if I know that somebody tends to have negative or weird or really skewed extremist comments, I don't go to their page. I stick with the positive ones. And that's what I try to do on my page. I try to keep it positive, humorous, a little bit informational. And, a lot of the things I talk about are health, how to have improved health, losing weight if you're overweight, dogs, coffee, art, flowers. I think things that most of us can get behind and say, yeah, I like this. Anyway, I hope this is helpful to you. It's helpful to me. Anyhow, I'll talk to you later. God bless you.